Our team, our community. This is Condors Town, and this is another Energy Condors connection. Now, here's Erik Fox and Ryan Holt.
Happy Wednesday morning, B-Town. What up? It's Erik Fox here from the Energy 95.3 studios up on Pegasus, and down on the offices of Truxton is the one and only Ryan Holt from the Vegas Condors. How you doing, my brother from another mother?
I'm good. I'm ready for a Friday night in Condors Town and a quick little jaunt back home and then back out on the road.
Yeah, no rest for the weary, man. We'll get to that in a moment because you've been a crazy busy boy lately. I love how we're both sporting our Condors gear today, so that's always a good start to things. Let's do what we always do. We always start by talking about the club up in the frozen north, the Oilers. Let's talk about it. I mean, the last 10, 4-5-1, so kind of some good, some bad. And last night's game versus the Caps a little controversial at the end. But what are you seeing with the team up there?
Well, first off, great to see our captain Brad Malone score the big go-ahead goal, which should have been the game winner. If anybody watched the game last night, pretty sure Alex Ovechkin got away with a pretty good hook on Hyman there for the empty netter. So that should have been a 5-3 final or whatever it was, 4-2 final. Ends up being a 4-3 final in OT. So great to see Bugsy score. It's his first goal in the NHL in almost 7 years, which is crazy when you think about it, but. It's great for him, great for the organization, and big win last night against Washington. So they're right in the thick of things here. They're battling with Vegas and, LA kind of in that, 2 through 4 spot, trying to get into the postseason. And it's going to be a battle the rest of the way. So, they got about 20 games left. We got about 20 games left, and it's the most exciting time of the year.
The Pacific, we've talked about all season long. We kind of had these expectations going into the year. It just does not seem to hold because every single time we talk, it seems to be something's different. Of course, the Kings are going on a tear right now. Edmonton just outside that wild card position, but they're far from out. What are you seeing as they move forward? What do they need to maybe batten up a little more?
Well, it's interesting because they've got 2 of their top 6 forwards, 7 forwards out with Nugent Hopkins and Puljujarvi. And not to say that, all teams don't have injuries, but, it's tough to replace 2 guys who play, 20 minutes a night, especially a guy like Nugent Hopkins, who I think, goes really unheralded for the Oilers. He's a bona fide star in the league, and, he gets kind of overshadowed by the fact that, the 2 centermen above him are, the 2 best players in the world, or 2 of the 3 top players in the world. So, having them out is hard, and it's a tough time of year to have guys out because, you have the trade deadline coming up. You kind of want to know what you have, before you get into the trade deadline and figure out what you need. And the team really hasn't been at full strength for, a couple of months now. So, they're without Tyson Barrie, who's their, top, power play guy on the back end. So, it'll be interesting to see what they do and what happens here over the next couple of weeks. But, at full strength, I think it's a playoff team. You got to get in, though. I would have said Vegas is a for sure playoff team, too. But looks like one out of those 2 teams aren't going to be in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens here down the stretch.
It's going to be a heck of a way to see. I see we got quite a few people watching us live right now. If you do have any questions or comments, feel free to put those in the chat, and we will get to those as well as we get through right here on your Condors Connection. We were talking about the trade deadline. We are 11 days away, and let's just be blunt. Everyone treats it like it's a draft or it's like this huge hoopla, but more times than not, it's more hype than hope or whatever you want to call it. What are you seeing? Are the Oilers going to be more of a buyer, seller, a holder? I mean, what are we going to see for the next 11 days as we head to the trade deadline?
Well, I think they're a buyer for sure. I think the narrative of anyone saying that they're selling is, they're in this to make the playoffs and they're in this to win. So, I mean, this is as all in a year as you could possibly have, I think. For Edmonton, they're not a team that can quit on this. They have McDavid, Draisaitl for another 4 or 5 years, and you have to go for it. You have to, cash in while you have that window of guys entering their prime or in their prime, and that's the situation they're in. So now that's not to say that they won't sell in the sense of trading assets for players coming in. I think, that's a distinct possibility. And as always, anytime that happens, it affects, the team down here in Bakersfield too. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I would anticipate them, adding a couple of pieces to try and make things better, kind of round them out a little bit. Now, the thing with them is they don't really have much salary cap room. So, when you're talking trades, you're talking dollars in and dollars out. So whatever you bring in, you got to find dollars that go out, and if you're bringing in a $4 million contract, you got to send out 2 or 3 guys that are worth $4 million total. And you have to find a team that's able to take on a couple of contracts too. So it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. I think some teams have gone from maybe, hey, we're in the postseason to, hey, maybe not. I think you're a fan of one of those teams that, the last couple of weeks has, kind of, shoring up where they are in the Pacific and, what they're going to be doing here in the next couple of weeks as well too. And they've got a couple pieces on the back end that I wouldn't mind seeing in an Oilers sweater. I don't know how that happens, but one has the same last name as a certain Oilers assistant coach, and wouldn't mind him in an Oilers sweater at all. He's as tough as they come and as solid a defenseman as they come too. So it's always a fun time. The trade deadline is always good, and we'll see what happens here coming up the next couple of weeks.
Definitely going to be interesting to see. I don't think it's going to be as bust as some of the years have been in the past, but I don't know. Like, I'm not a big believer in the hype when it comes to that, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and you never want to make too rash a decision at the trade deadline. I think some teams, I think at the trade deadline, you're more apt to have a bad trade than you are kind of in the offseason when everyone likes their team. I think you can kind of, wiggle out some prospects that you wouldn't be able to do so in the offseason.
Well, we'll talk in our next edition here of Condors Connection about maybe how things maybe look as we get closer to that deadline on the 21st. Let's go and jump down to the local because, like I said, and preaching to the choir, you've been a busy boy lately. We're talking 4 games in 6 days that the Condors have been on the ice. 2 W's, 2 L's in the last 4 games. What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, it's a team that's battling right now. We've talked about it. In Stockton and Ontario have kind of separated themselves as 1-2 in the Pacific, and now you have Bakersfield, Colorado, Abbotsford, and Henderson left to battle it out between 3 through 6. And 3 and 4 get home ice advantage. 5 and 6 got to go on the road for the first round and for subsequent rounds probably as well too. So it's going to be a fun final 21 games. Probably going to be a stressful final 21 games. San Diego in town tomorrow night. They're a team that's kind of locked in the 7 hole. Either them, Tucson, or San Jose is going to get that 7 spot. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility for those 3 teams to just battle it out for 1 spot and then go play Ontario. But we'll see what happens here with the final 21 games. But for Bakersfield, it's business as usual. Team's playing pretty well. I thought after the loss in San Jose, things could have, I don't want to use the word derailed a bit, but, could have seen a little bit of a dip. It came back with 2 wins on the weekend. Probably should have gotten a win on Monday. Played too well not to get a win on Monday in Ontario. But the fact of the matter is it's a learning opportunity for the team. And, you go 2-2 on a difficult 6-game or 6-day stretch. It's pretty good.
Let's talk about the games coming up. Obviously, you talked about Friday night. We got the San Diego game at home, but I think next week, definitely some important games because you're taking on the top dog in the Pacific right now with Stockton. How do you see the team preparing and getting ready for that stretch where you got 2 games back to back versus the top dog in the Pacific right now?
Yeah, not only that, but then you got Ontario on a Friday, and then you come back home and you face an Abbotsford team that doesn't seem to want to go away here over the final 2 months of the year. So that's a difficult stretch next week. Spending 4 days in Stockton is, difficult enough, and then you have to actually play the games as well too. But the fact of the matter is, you got to go out and find ways to get wins on the road. And after next week, the schedule lightens up a bit. It gets a little easier. There's a long homestand to finish the season in April. So things lighten up a little bit. This is kind of the last week of the dog days, if you will. So big one tomorrow night against San Diego. That's a game that, if you're serious about being a top 3 team in the division, you have to beat San Diego. That's not out of the, that's not, chalkboard talk or whatever. It's you got to go out and win games against teams that are 7 games under 500 on home ice. So
right.
That's the focus tomorrow night. Get a win, and then try and do all you can against a Stockton team that's been loaded all season and an Ontario team that's been just as good. I think Stockton is better than Ontario. I think Ontario is a power play offensive type of team that isn't going to suit well for playoff hockey, but they've won games and they scored a ton of goals.
Let's talk about that game tomorrow. Of course, San Diego, we want to, of course, fill the arena with all the Condors fans. What's the deals about tomorrow?
$2 Bud Light Seltzers, $2 Mick Ultras. Can't go any better than a Friday night in Condors Town with $2 beers. And we'll have Bud Light Seltzers and Mick Ultras tomorrow night. And San Diego in town, they're always a fun opponent. Obviously, long-standing rivalry dating back to the early 2000s, and now it's kind of taken on a new shape with the AHL. And obviously, we had that playoff series a couple of years ago as well too. The last time there were really postseason. Well, we played them twice in the postseason the last 3 years as well too. So it's always a fun time when the Gulls come to town, and I think it's our second to last meeting with them. We don't go back down there, so get a good opportunity on home ice tomorrow night. And like I said, it's a game that the Condors need. It's a game you got to put 2 points in your back pocket and move on to the road.
To get some more information, what do they got to do, buddy?
Condorstown.com is your best way. Great seats start at $12, and look forward to having everyone out tomorrow night.
All right. Thank you once again, Ryan Holt from the Baseball Condors. My name is Erik Fox from Energy 95.3. This has been another edition of your Energy Condors Connection. We'll see you next time.